Hello, hello, hello. Today, I'm gonna redo that. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, hey, hey. Whatever. Okay, so today I'm working on my CRX again. Last night I took it out and the trans started making some really scary noises. So I'm actually going to be taking the transmission out and looking at it and see what went wrong. So I got a buddy with a LS trans that lives in town here, so I'll have a parts tranny to use. I'm hoping that the gears are okay in this transmission, and that way I can maybe just use like some synchros and maybe like a couple bearings and stuff like that from the LS trans, and then maybe put an LS 5th gear in. I think that'd be cool. Show you guys how to do that. And then I might go with like an LS differential. We'll see. I don't know. But first things first, I got to get this transmission out of here. I already got a lot of the stuff done. The starter's out, the speedo cable, the clutch cable. Yeah. Some other stuff, whatever. So I got to get the car jacked up in the air now so we can get the axles out and the shift linkage. And then I got to drop that stupid front cross member thing so I can get the transmission actually out of the car, because the radius rod is in the way and you can't get the transmission out with that still attached. So yeah, I'm gonna get to it. All right guys, so I got pretty much everything out. I got one bolt on the bell housing and the mount, but yeah, she's ready to come out. And I didn't want to bore you, showing you how to pull axles and all that stuff, considering I already did that on the Civic EG build. So if you guys want to learn how to take a tranny out or whatever, and how to take the axles and shift linkage off, be sure to go check those videos out. Alright guys, so I just got the transmission out. It took about an hour, so I'm pretty happy with how long it took. Everything went pretty good. So that's all out of the car now, as you can see. And there is the beast. The speedo cable is actually, I just took it out this way with it still hooked up to the car, because this speed sensor is like seized into the trans. So I just JB welded the cable into the trans and the speedo works. So yeah, but that thing is like completely seized into the trans. I'm going to try to get it out now, but yeah, I just figured it'd be easier to pull it at the gauge cluster and pull it all through the car that way. But anyways, I am going to probably clear a spot on my bench and get this thing knocked apart. So hopefully we can see what went wrong. Alright guys, so got the transmission out. Like I said, I got it flipped on, with this side up. And this is the first thing you got to take out. This is just like a plug that you just stick a 3/8 ratchet into, and this plug comes right out. So I'll put that to the side. And then I put my finger in here, and look at this. That's all metal shavings. Crazy. This trans definitely had something explode or something. So yeah, but the reason you got to take that plug out is because right down in this spot, look at all that metal. Okay, so there's like a little snap ring that you have to pry apart with a needle nose screwdriver or needle nose pliers as you pull the case up, because that kind of locks everything into place. And then next, I'm going to take off this bolt back here, which is for reverse. It's right here, if you can't see. This goes through the reverse shaft and holds it in place, right here. Okay, so next I am going to take all the 12mm bolts around the side on the case half and get all those taken off. Alright, so now all those 12mm case half bolts are taken out. We can get in here and spread the C-clip. This can be a little bit tricky to get, but once you get it, you just gotta hold it open as you pry up on the case. Alright, so I did this by myself, just kind of holding the pliers open as hard as I could, and then I literally just jumped on the pry bar and it popped. So now the case is split and we'll see how bad this thing looks. Ready? I'm kind of curious. Alright, so far I can see the differential bearing on the top here. Looks okay. There's a bunch of bearing balls in the case. The gears look okay from what I can see. Reverse is pretty munched up, but that's normal. These gears are actually looking like they're in pretty good shape. That is a very good sign, because this thing didn't have fourth gear. Well, I can see that this bearing is completely cooked. This one is, yeah. So this one on the input shaft, the bearing that sits on the top of the input shaft here exploded. You can see it's actually stuck in the case still, like the outer race is still stuck in the case. Oh, I might be able to get it out. Alright, here's the race that normally would go on there, and all these ball bearings, you know, sit in the bearing. But yeah, this bearing right here is completely junk. I'll have to pull the gear stacks out to determine if anything else really went wrong. This transmission looks really good though. I'm super excited because this bearing is good on the counter shaft. Yeah, there's no like play or anything in it, so that's good. Okay, so next I'm going to pull out the shift selector mechanism right here and the reverse gear, which are all held on by 10mm bolts. And then we could probably get to cleaning this case out because there's a shitload of metal everywhere. And ball bearings from that bearing that exploded. Did I not say that yesterday when I was driving the car? I said, oh, it sounds like one of the bearings exploded or something, because that's really what it sounded like. And this thing's been making a growling noise for a long time. And I bet you if this is loose, you know, like it was, it's probably not going to be very happy. Yes! I'm just super happy that all the gears are still intact, because the parts tranny that I have is probably going to have a lot of good parts that we can use, like the bearing here and, you know, some other miscellaneous stuff. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing here. There's two bolts that hold the, this is like an arm to engage reverse. This just gets pushed down, and then there's reverse, and then pulls it up when you're out of reverse. And there's two bolts that hold that like whole linkage on. And this thing should slide out. Yep, just like that. Put that in our pile of parts. The reverse shaft should come right out too. So this thing just pulls up, just like this. And it's got a little keyway in there that lines up with the keyway in the case. So that's out. Next, I'm going to take out some of these ball bearings that are chilling in here. We could take out this little shield. I think this is just like a fluid shield or something. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right, because the heater is on. Here's the shield thing. I don't know what the hell it does. Now you got the shift selector over here. There's metal everywhere in this frickin' thing. I'm really surprised the gears aren't chewed up. But you'd be surprised how much power these little frickin' gears can take. I had a Civic that made 840 horsepower, and it shred the gears off, but it would be fine if it was under like 600. I've actually busted the shift selectors on these things. This is the shift selector, and like I said, I've actually broken these like little ears off. I've busted them clean off from, you know, shifting too hard or whatever. But yeah, that's the shift selector. It's pretty simple. Just goes right in the trans with 3 bolts, and these little ears right here line up with the shift forks. All right, next we can pull out the gear stacks. Usually when you pull these out, you want to pull them together with the forks attached. So I'll show you. Just like this. Need a good cleaning. And then you have shims right here for the input shaft. You want to make sure that you use these same shims when you put it back together. The differential is going to be the same thing. You're just going to pull straight up on it and it should come out. It just sucks because there's not much to grab here. Pry bar. That sucker's in there. Hey, it wants to come out. This thing's being a pain. Usually they pop right out. There we go. This just sits in a bearing in the bottom. And sure shit, there's a lot of metal on it. So yeah, this thing's gonna need a really good cleaning before we put it back together, because obviously you don't want any of this bearing material or all this metal getting in all the bearings. So yeah, but all these other bearings seem like they're really good. So I think the only bearing that was bad was the top one that goes into the case there. Look at all this frickin' metal. Yummy! Anybody want some lunch? Yeah, there's a magnet that sits on the side of the case right here. And that comes out as well, just like so. You can pull the shift rod out, which I am going to do because this thing, the bitch pin is like stuck. So I'm gonna pull the shift rod out too, which is just a 12mm bolt right here. There's a little bolt and a washer that hold the end of it. So this thing should just come out now. Maybe not. There's another bolt right here. This thing has like a spring on it and then a little check ball underneath. You want to make sure that those go back together. They came apart here. So we'll get the little check ball out of there. Now it should come out. This whole rod slides out. Voila. Now I can get this frickin' bitch pin out of here because, like I said, it's stuck like halfway in and it's got a shitload of play in it. So this doesn't help either when your shifter is sloppy like this and you're trying to bang gears in your Honda. If you have any shifter slop, it's definitely gonna, you know, hinder your ability to bang gears like a boss. Alright, so next I am going to take apart the counter shaft right here, which is the, it's like the bigger of the two shafts, and it has this big gear on the bottom that hooks to the differential. You grab your fancy impact. It's just a 32mm socket, just like the axle nuts. Shim here. Turn that fucker off. Okay, and once you get the nut off and that little washer thing, these bearings are going to kind of hold everything down. So what I do is I just take the shaft like this and give it a hit, just like so, and then everything will start to walk off. So once you get to this spot right here, the bearing is going to only go so far. Sometimes they slide right off, sometimes they're stuck. I don't blame this one for being a little stuck, but you're going to want to hit the shaft on the center here so the bearing can go around. So we'll tap it onto you know, this fucking dowel pin or whatever I got laying around. Alright, a socket will probably work good. Okay, so now the gears are all broken off of the shaft. Like I said, I just used a socket and kind of just pushed on the gear stack until it popped the bearing off. And now that the bearing is off, we should be able to pull all of this stuff off. I want to try to keep this stuff in order as best as you can. The bearings. Okay, so that went next. And then we have, I forget what way this goes, if this is first or fifth or what. But then we got this gear. Ooh, this gear's chewed up a little bit. You can see it there. Chewed up on the edges. I mean, it's still runnable. I'll just need to file them with a file. Clean them up a little bit. I'm just kind of laying them out on the ground here. I'm going to clean all these later, but I'm going to pull them off. Get this guy. This synchro doesn't look too bad. This shift selector looks pretty good. A lot of times these shift selectors will, the edges will get burred up and beat up pretty bad, so when you go to change a gear it'll lock you out. It's because this selector has a bunch of burrs in it or whatever. But this one looks pretty decent. This washer fucking thing, I don't know. Move that off to the side. We got another shift, another part of the collar here, and then a few synchros. So this goes off of there. Here's some more synchros. These synchros look mint. And then you're just going to have a few shims on the bottom here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You just got to make sure when you put all this stuff back on, you put it on the right way. You really can't mess it up. When you put these gears back on, they're only going to go on one way. And if you put them on backwards, it's not going to mate up with the main shaft or the counter or the input shaft here. So yeah, they're kind of hard to mess up, but at the same time really easy to mess up. Okay guys, so I just got home from my old work, and they let me use the parts washer. So I got the case nice and clean. All that metal is out of there. These things look brand new. So yeah, I also picked up from a buddy. He hooked it up fucking awesome. He gave me an LS tranny for free. So if I can use like some of the bearings or some of the parts from that tranny and put it into mine. So yeah, I'm just kind of going over all my parts right now and seeing what I'm going to use. This is the LS counter shaft, and this is my B16 counter shaft. These are identical. The counter shafts on the LS and the B16 cable transmission are the same. The final drive is the same. The only difference is the gear ratio on the actual gears. So what I might do, because this car screams like a freak on the highway, I might put a fifth gear, the fifth gear from the LS onto the B16. You know, I'll have B16 first, second, third, fourth for racing, and then fifth gear will be an LS gear ratio. So it won't be as high of RPM on the highway, and you get a little better fuel mileage or whatever. But yeah, so I got to do that. I'm going through all my parts yet, like I said, and I'll pick up as soon as I figure out exactly what parts I'm going to use. I'm probably going to count the teeth on the final drive on the differential, because I only counted the teeth on the counter shaft, but I don't know if the actual diff is different. I highly doubt it. Usually if the differential, or usually if the counter shaft teeth are the same, the differential teeth are going to be the same. So I'm assuming that they're the same, and they look identical. So yeah, the only thing here is this input bearing is a little bit growly. So I don't know, I might have to take the bearing out of this one because it seems like it's a lot better and it doesn't make any noise. But I don't have a puller to be able to get this bearing out of this case. So I'm going to have to figure some shit out. I'm probably going to skip ahead a few steps because this video is probably already super freaking long. But yeah, I will pick up here in a little. Now I'm going to be reassembling my counter shaft. And we'll do the input shaft after the counter shaft. So this row of gears right here, I don't know if you can see them. This row of gears right here is all LS, and then this row of gear here is all B16. There's like tooth count differences. You can just Google it. Like the LS has 26 teeth on fifth gear, and the B16 has 29, etc., etc. This fifth gear is actually busted, so I'm going to replace it anyway with the LS fifth gear. And yeah, so we're going to use everything B16 besides the 5th gear. So we're going to take the B16 first gear, which is right here, and we're going to inspect the synchro, which the synchro looks very good. Usually when the synchro goes bad, you will know and you will see it. And then it also has this like little snap ring on it. It's like a little ring that goes around the synchro. You want to make sure that's on, and this gear should be good to go. So we will put it on like so. There's a little seal in here too. You want to make sure that that's seated into the inside of the first gear here. So we're gonna, like I said, we're just gonna slide it down onto here. There's a roller bearing on the bottom of the counter shaft. You want to make sure that that's there and not missing. Like I said, you want to make sure the seal sits in here good. There we go. They like to pop out when you put them on. Here we go. First gear is installed. Next is going to be second gear. So we're going to have to take this guy and install it. This is a sleeve or a collar, I think, for the shift selector, I believe. And then this guy, I don't think it matters what way it goes. Looks the same on both sides. Yep. Okay, so this just goes on next. Piece right here, this is like the shift selector collar thingy-majig. That one's kind of sliding on a little tough, so I'm going to put this one on and see if it slides on any better. Oh yeah, way better. You want all these parts to move freely, and if they don't move freely, you probably got to file the splines. We might have to do that on one of these, so I'll show you. But okay, so there's that. Next, we're going to have the shift collar. This guy right here. This is one of the shift collars and reverse gear. So I'm going to inspect here and see what one is better. I got two of them here, so I think they're the same. Yes, they are identical. On this shift collar, this slides over the, or no, this is like the, honestly, I have no idea what any of these parts are called. I just know how to put them together. There's going to be teeth on the inside here. You're going to want to look at the outsides of all those teeth and see if they're chewed up at all. And this one looks like it's a little bit beat up from the B16 here. So I'm going to use the one out of the LS because it looks like it's in better condition. And yeah, we're going to slide that on next. Hopefully the lighting is okay, but I just got the reverse gear on and this roller bearing, and then it goes this collar, reverse gear, etc. And then this roller bearing goes on here, like so. And then after that, I think we need second gear, which we take from the B16, like so. Inspect this son of a gun, and it looks pretty good. Okay, so next the second gear is going to go on, and luckily the B16 and the LS second gear on the counter shaft side are identical. And this one from this LS looked a lot better than the one I had, just because the teeth here were really beat up on mine. You know, second gear gets pounded quite a bit. So I'm using the second gear from this one. We're going to put that onto here like so. It goes right over that roller bearing, and now that's installed. So next we need this guy right here, which is third gear. I don't know if that's different or not. Third is also the same, so we can use either of the third gears here, and it won't matter. There's third gear. Is fourth gear. Got the counter shaft all assembled, and now we're doing the main shaft, or the input shaft. And this B16 input shaft, every single one of these gears came off extremely hard. This shaft got really hot, and yeah, these gears do not look good. These synchros are really banged up. So yeah, we're gonna definitely have to utilize Yeah, this thing is gnarly looking. It's all chewed up. Yeah, so I'm hoping the LS parts we can use here, and we'll just use the gears from the B16, and then the fifth from the LS, obviously. So yeah, I'll get this input shaft all done, and then pick back up. All right, guys, I kind of just threw the gear stacks in. I got the input shaft all assembled with my new bearing on the top. This is the bearing that went out. This one seems to be in way better condition because it came out of that other tranny, which was good. So I'm gonna put all this in now for good, and we'll get our gears all lined up. Get the forks into the collars. There we go. Now everything is hooked. My shift forks are onto the shift collars. Everything looks good, so we're gonna plop this thing in. I did clean all these parts for the most part. If you got a little bit of dirt and shit, it don't make a fucking difference. Kaboom! Dog pile chicken smile. Alright, now we can put our shift selector back in and the shift rod, all that stuff. Alright guys, I have been fighting with this tranny for at least a few hours now. I got everything cleaned out, the main shaft, counter shaft, all that stuff's on. There's a couple things on the transmission that I wanted you guys to know, like, you know, if you were to do your own. One big thing is kind of just line these synchro tabs. So like there's gonna be like 3 slots on the synchro, one here, one here, one here. And those need to line up into the slots on the sleeve here, like so. You got to make sure all that stuff's lined up on every single gear, every single sleeve. Make sure all your roller bearings are in, all that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry I didn't film a whole lot of the assembly just because I was trying to focus and, you know, just stay going on this. I'm not running on much sleep, so I think I'm going to call it a night and, you know, pick up on this tomorrow some more. But I did get the transmission assembled. I can tell I haven't been running on much sleep because I was installing shit totally wrong. Like this shift, you know, the shifter arm or whatever. I had the shift mechanism, like selector thing, was on totally backwards. Like I had it flip-flop, so I was literally fighting with trying to get that on for like an hour. And I went inside, I ate some food, and I came back out, and I realized it was on backwards. So sometimes, you know, if you're busting your ass kind of all night long or all day long, I mean, sometimes it's best to just call it quits for the night and, you know, come back tomorrow. Because honestly, this morning I was working very efficiently, and now, you know, 14 hours later, I'm like, you know, foggy and I can't think straight. So I don't know, that'd be the worst possible thing to not be able to think straight on, is this transmission. So I got everything good on the gear stacks, the main shaft and counter shaft. I know all that is good, and I just test fitted the case and that seems good. Everything still spins. So yeah, I don't know, I will probably pick up on this video tomorrow. I'm probably not going to be uploading tomorrow or today, whatever. So this is probably just going to be like an extra long video that I'm going to skip a day and we'll do a longer video the next day. So hopefully we'll get this transmission in and yeah, we'll be good to go.